Welcome back to Fast Market on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, and I'm joined by my co-host Kevin Hinks. But let's bring in our next guest and for our cash tag segment, and that's going to be Megan Brantley, the Vice President of Research at LikeFolio.com. Thanks for joining us today, Megan.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday to you. So I was looking for stocks when we were giving you guys ideas, and I wanted to kind of hit on Disney because it seems like demand for going to Disney parks just won't go away. People love going to Disney for some reason. I've been there. It's okay. It's expensive. But when you look at the data points on on Disney, I mean, it's outperforming this month. I said it's up 7%. It's up about 5.5% so far this month. Basically flat on the year. So it's outperformed the overall market. Are your data points reflective that, hey, we're getting through all these mandates, the economies are opening up, and Disney demand is still there?
Yeah, so I think you make a really good point. I don't know about you guys, but my Instagram and Facebook and social media feeds are full of people who are posting their Disney trips. And so whenever we dug into this data, that's one element of Disney that we can break down of, how many people are talking about actually going to visit a park. And when we see that, those mentions are up by about 57% on a year-over-year basis. I don't think that this is surprising to anyone. But what is interesting is you can kind of see the steepness of that line on the chart there, and what we're witnessing is a lot of acceleration. So every time we shrink the moving average down, that rate of growth increases. So even whenever we look on a week over week basis, I think we looked at a 7-day moving average on a week over week basis, and those mentions were up by about 45%. So I think that this is a case of people are really excited to be getting out there, getting out of their house, being able to go do things again. Mandates are loosening, even mask policies are loosening. And this is something that, consumers are really excited to get back into Disney. And so I think it's really interesting how Disney has situated itself because, when consumers were locked in their house, they had plenty of streaming services to offer entertainment options for consumers. And now that consumers are getting out of their house, they have another, door to open to welcome consumers in.
Megan, this is a company that whenever you're in the streaming business like they are now, they get judged wrongly, in my opinion, by the number of streamers, the growth in streaming, the new customers added. And that's fine for Netflix. That's fine for these other streamers. But you can't judge Disney's company on streaming additions when they have parks that revenue doubled. More than doubled during the last year. Their parks, their theaters, their cruise lines, their hotels. This is a massive company with just a small part of it being Disney Plus. So as long as Disney Plus is not sucking money, which it isn't, right? They've got higher margins that they can use on content for Disney Plus, where Netflix just has their own. So this is a massive company with a Netflix within that massive company. So Megan, here's my question to you is, what are you seeing? Because I see your purchase intent versus sentiment for these streamers, and Disney Plus is hanging right in there near the top. So as long as Disney Plus isn't hurting the rest of the company, they should be doing extremely well, correct?
Yeah, this was just a gut check for us to say, okay, we know that they just reported, a nice release. They actually had strong user growth, which Netflix did not necessarily have. So we wanted to say, okay, how does this look like and shake out in our data? And you can see this quadrant, kind of the sweet spot is that upper right-hand corner. And you can see that's where Disney finds itself. And what that is that's a representation of user growth and the percent happiness. So how happy are its users? How happy are its consumers? And, if you're Disney Plus, that's exactly where you want to be. So I think that the company definitely has some near-term momentum. A lot of that has to do with the content that they've been putting out. We saw a lot of mentions around the Encanto movie. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not yet. I know that that's been on in my household. But, I think that this is almost like a self fulfilling cycle for Disney of they're able to release this content. They now have a direct channel into consumer living rooms, and then they're able to kind of capitalize on that and provide an experience for people within the park. So, both sides of this puzzle feed each other to give consumers, different experiences with the same type of content, the same, entertainment value. So it definitely is a unique value prop that Disney offers that other streamers can't necessarily compete with.
Yeah, and Megan, I heard that they're coming out with this this living Disney Living, where they're going to build these communities. I just saw this. They came out with it. It's going to be like Margaritaville for maybe the younger generation, I guess. But this is another area or silo that they can actually create revenue from. And I think a lot of people forget that due to the pandemic, that everything went from basing all their assumptions on Disney with the parks and some of their films immediately to the direct-to-consumer streaming services, right? They nailed it as far as timing. They came out at the end of 2019, so we saw the pull forward as far as the number of subscribers goes. But do you guys see any data in that looks forward where, hey, now the cruise lines and some of the hotels that they have are actually seeing more traction also? Because I understand people want to visit the parks, but the next couple silos that they need to keep going in case the growth slows down from their Disney Plus subscriber growth will probably hit, their revenues a little bit, but it'll be picked up from a lot of the overpriced stuff that they offer at some of the resorts, right?
Yeah, so we didn't look at Disney hotels specifically, but I can say just our generic travel trends. So people talking about, booking a flight, people talking about booking a generic hotel reservation, or even in some of the companies that we follow, a lot of those mentions are growing significantly on a year-over-year basis as people are getting back out there. So I think that, Disney, this is a tide that will lift Disney's boat also as consumers resume travel and, pick up their travel, and especially now that the weather's warming up specifically. So I think it's nice that Disney has this balance, because one thing I do think that people should be aware of is, Disney's been able to post these great numbers for its subscriber growth for streaming. And, I know that investors have paid a lot of attention to this, but from our perspective, we're starting to see signs that just overall streaming is tempering. I think this makes sense as people are getting out and doing other things. Those mentions for us are down by about 17% year over year. And we're also seeing a lot of signs of subscriber fatigue. So people talking about, I have too many subscriptions to manage. Those are up by about 51% year over year. So I think that something to keep in mind is, could the market react negatively if Disney Plus starts to slow down in terms of that user growth? Perhaps just something to make note of. But on the flip side of things, they have so many other avenues, as you mentioned, to capture this consumer, whether it's parks, whether it's hotels, whether it's cruises. And our data definitely supports that consumers are ready to get out there and ready to have fun and, resume their normal lives.
Megan, two last small questions. Number one, do you guys have any data on this Genie Plus? I guess it's you manage your itinerary through your cell phone when you're in it. I mean, the numbers they say is like half the people going in the park are buying this Genie Plus way to measure that. And then the other thing is, why has Apple TV dropped off so much on your intent? Is it the post Ted Lasso hangover there for Apple for Apple TV?
Yeah, for Apple TV, you nailed it. That's exactly what it is. The quarter that we're comparing it to was whenever they released season 2 of Ted Lasso, and Ted Lasso is such a hit for Apple TV that it's really tough to meet those comps whenever we saw the type of consumer reaction that we saw in the last quarter for Apple TV. I think Apple TV still has a lot of catch up to do to the bigger players, Disney Plus and Netflix when it comes to original content. But at least from the content that they do have and the experience that they provide consumers on their platform, Apple TV is certainly doing well. For the Genie question, that's really interesting. I think that there is a phenomenon where consumers are increasingly mobile. They like to be able to control things from their mobile device. They like to be able to not just make purchases, but, live and operate and help organize their lives via their phone. So this doesn't surprise me that the Genie Plus is doing so well. Disney also has a way of, whether it's a way for you to pay more to cut lines, anything like that. Any of these premium add-ons consumers seem to be gobbling up. So I think it's smart that Disney's leveraging those different types of things.
Yeah, definitely a lot of levers for them to pull. And I love the fact that you keep on touting Ted Lasso, Megan, because that is the best show out there. Combined soccer, too, which I love also, the English Premier League. All right, great stuff, great data points as always. So you guys are pretty positive on Disney, right, Megan, as far as your data goes?
Yeah, they seem to be outperforming peers when it comes to streaming. And from a parks perspective, we're definitely seeing acceleration there.
All right, great stuff as always. All right, Megan, thanks for all the data and have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right, that's Megan Brantley, a Vice President of Research at LikeFolio.com.